On behalf of UNIDCOM, IADE and the Universidade Europeia, I would like to thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you, the Embassy of Italy, here represented by the ambassador, for having entrusted us to organize this webinar that celebrates Italian Design Day in the world. I would also like to thank the rector of the Universidade Europeia, here represented by the vice rector, Professor Carlos Duarte, and also the dean of IADE, here represented by Professor Rodrigo Ramirez, coordinator of the design area. A special word of thanks to our colleagues Annalisa Dominoni and Benedetto Quacquaro from the Atelier A and B, ambassadors of Italian Design Day. Also, thank you, Giorgio Novello, which is the Senior Vice President of Avio SPA in Institutional Relations. And also Professor Fernando Carvalho Rodrigues, Emeritus Professor of IADE. It is a pleasure and an honor for us to be able to work with you, and especially to talk about topics that are so dear to us, such as design, technology, and beauty. All of these issues, including space, are parts of human nature, and they have been with us from the old days, and they will be also critical to our future. And for this is so important having the opportunity to discussing these topics with this audience. At the end of the session, there will be time for Q&A. And so I challenge all our attendees to write the questions for our guest speakers in our chat. I will be managing the questions and asking the guests to respond to your issues. So now let's start, and I would like to invite the ambassador to give some words to the audience. Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope you enjoy the session. So please.
Thank you very much, Professor Emilia Duarte. Thank you to all the participants, especially special thanks goes to the Vice Rector of the Universidade Europeia, Professor Carlos Duarte, and all the participants. I hope that when you said that you were giving the floor to the ambassador, you were referring to me, because now we are quite many ambassadors participating today. These are the ambassadors of design, which I also take the chance to thank Annalisa Dominoni and Benedetto Quacquaro, and also special greetings to my friend, dear friend and colleague, Giorgio Novello, who now works for an Italian company, important, one of the most important Italian companies in the European field and in the sector of the launchers. Giorgio Novello, who also had, I have to say, quite a parallel path, professional life, because myself, I used to work for a private company. It's one of the biggest company in the sector of defense, aerospace, and security, so that he's going to join, as I did a few years ago, to join again diplomatic career, John Novello, and also I would like to congratulate for being named to foreign countries as ambassador. So many ambassadors here on the floor, so that I'm confident that you were referring to me. So I just take the floor for a few words as an introductory remarks. First of all, I would like to just try to explain a little bit what was the purpose of the exercise in origin, because we couldn't give for granted the fact that all the attendees know what is the Italian Design Day. And the Italian Design Day is something that in origin was conceived as a mean to maximize the impact of the promotion ability of the Italian system abroad in the fields of excellence, where Italy can boast, can claim an incomparable recognition in terms of quality of production, so that we have, and this is true as far art, cuisine, science, music, you name it. There are many fields where we thought, when I say we, because I also refer to one of the former capacity when I was director for the internationalization of the economic system at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I was responsible, together with my then colleague Vincenzo De Luca, to think about an organization, just to create a structure able to all together at the same day, all the Italian representative office abroad, the embassies and consulate, to concentrate on developing a specific theme in order to have this communication impact being just multiplied by all these initiatives carried out all together all over the world. And this was something that it actually worked, so that after now, this is the third year that we did it. And as far as the Italian Design Day is probably one of the most interesting things, because it was not only a matter of promoting the excellence of the Italian productive system, but also to give a chance bilaterally in each embassy to stimulate just thinking together, going in depth into the subject, and to see where we could also take advantage of this confrontation in order to have a sort of a glance on the potential of cooperation in the field of, in this case, design, and but also in other fields when it occurred to be the week that is in the week for science, for music, art, and so on. So when we speak about the Italian Design Day, it's again, it's the Minister of Foreign Affairs who just set the boundaries of what should be the subject to be discussed during all these events organized abroad, and in this case in Portugal. And the title of the theme that was chosen for this year, it was Designing the Future, Development, Innovation, Sustainability, and Beauty. So I read out of the explanation that was given on the reason of this title of the event in general, that should be then delineated country by country according to this specific subject, was that is designing the future, development, innovation, sustainability, and beauty is closely linked to the proactive capacity of the Italian design and the extended Made in Italy system to think up even newer development scenarios capable of overcoming left referential rhetoric and keeping the improvement of our lives and the protection of the planet at the center of what is on offer. This is an even more topical issue where considered in the context of the health emergency that we are all currently experiencing. Now, from this wider subject, then we came to the title that was decided just to concentrate on a more specific space, and I use the word space, which is just simplified by the title, Aerospace Design, Technology is Beauty. Now, coming from the wider scheme that was sent to us by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, how did we come to the conclusion that was the case, just to concentrate on this specific theme. I have to say that it is a strong statement indeed. Aerospace design, technology's beauty. Is it so? And then makes me try to recall how it happened that we came to this, to decide about this title. Actually, the decision was not mine. I have to recognize. The decision was mine, but the idea, just the proposal to explore, and I use the word to explore, being aware of what I do, the aerospace design, it was of a colleague of mine. Also, I take the chance to thank her, Paola D'Agostino, because she's responsible for giving the idea. Obviously, the experts, the professor, the Italian ambassador of the science, in brief, and all the narrators that will take the floor after me, and who will take us into this beautiful journey of understanding which are the connection among all these words, aerospace design, technology's beauty, will better explore and technically define the links between aerospace and design. But I think that it is nice to recall what was my reaction when it was I received this proposal, which, by the way, was immediately and instinctively positive, actually enthusiastic. But I couldn't focus on the reason why I reacted that way, so positively about this proposal. So I started to elaborate on my personal perception of the meaning of design, which is really personal. And it comes from somebody which is not necessarily close to the subject. It's not an expert on the field. And my instinct is that anything related to design is associated to the concept of beauty. And this is because probably is connected to something that you observe, and what you observe instinctively stimulates a degree of amazement, of wonder. So what probably the connection, I mean, this is at least was my specific reaction, was that what is more attracting and amazing than the idea of outer space, and specifically the instruments that have been used by the human being to fulfill his and this irresistible attraction towards the unknown. And so it's an association of the instinct reaction between what you can look at above, I mean, onward, and what is my personal feeling of what has to be the stimulus of reaction of the human being by observing the unknown, and also it is associated with what is the reaction when you see something beautiful. Now, we decided to set this challenge, to imagine that, to try to delineate the link between these four very challenging words, that each one of them have and exert an incredible power of attraction for man's intellectual curiosity. And this I quote Professor Duarte, when at the beginning he said that he was watching with curiosity the development of this exercise, because it's also a matter of curiosity. Aerospace, design, technology, and beauty. How can all these words come together? I remember this reaction it brought to me to think about what is the common knowledge of design. Design is an English word, but it comes, and what is the meaning of design in English is to project, to make a project. And project in Latin, it means to project ourselves onward, ahead. And design is awareness, being aware of our present and imagine the future. So design is the connecting link between engineering, art, style, production, invention, and eventually market. So by these, let's say, how can we call, way of reasoning, we can start to perceive and to see somehow what is the link between these four different words, these terms, these four themes. Nevertheless, the term beauty is missing, according to the previous simplification I gave about how we came to this attempt to connect these four words. So beauty is something very important, because also it's part of the title that we have chosen. How can technology, aerospace, and eventually design provide that feeling that is associated with the concept of beauty, of perceptual experience of pleasure and satisfaction? This is what we can do, the way we can define the concept of beauty, and this is a challenge. So my personal request to all the speakers that are going to follow and to elaborate on this theme is to please also explain to me and to all the attendees why there is a link, in fact, between these four words, and specifically between technology and beauty. Is a challenge, but I think that also is going to make it particularly interesting to listen to this event for those, as I am myself. I'm not an expert, but I feel that instinctively there is a link, a part of the meaning itself of the concept of design. So I give the floor to I guess to our design coordinator, Professor Rodrigo Ramirez, and I'm looking forward to the continuation of the work. Thank you.
Dear Ambassador Carlo Formosa, thank you so much for your words. And I would like just to add that you are totally right by saying that there should be a link between these terms, between these areas, design, technology, and beauty, because this link in fact exists and is quite strong in fact. And I'm sure that our guests will be able to explore these deeply. And with no further delays, I would like to ask our Vice Rector, Professor Carlos Duarte, to say some few words to the audience before we can call Professor Rodrigo Ramirez. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Emilia. And now more formal, my intervention. I would like to begin by congratulating the Italian ambassador to Portugal, Carlo Formosa, the audience in general of this webinar, Aerospace Design Technology is a Beauty, and all, of course, of my colleagues of this panel, and a special greetings for Professor Fernando Carvalho Rodrigues. By the way, as an additional note, I would like to recall at this moment that Fernando Carvalho Rodrigues is the pioneer in space exploration in Portugal. He was responsible for the launch of the first Portuguese satellite, POSATE-1, whose team I was part of as an industrial designer between the years 1995. I am even the author of the image and the badge that remained for the later association with this launch. Now, as a vice rector of Universidade Europeia, I would like to present this university. It has a robust scientific and cultural project with roots in Portugal's oldest private higher education institution and resulting from the merge of two reputation schools. One of them was the ISLA with more than 60 years, and the other it's the IADE with more than 50 years. The Universidade Europeia became famous on the national higher education scene due to its quality and innovative academic model, but also for its areas of specialization, which are increasingly developed from an international perspective in order to invest in education without borders, attracting students, educators, and researchers from all over the world. At this moment, we have more than 20% of our students are international students. But the Universidade Europeia has three campuses located in Lisbon, one in Santos, where is the IADE, another, the main campus is in the Carnide, and the other campus in the Lispolis Technological Park in Lisbon. Design and provide the students with a unique academic experience and enhance their academic success. It awards bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees in different fields such as management, law, psychology, human resource, marketing, advertising, communication, sport, computers, and technologies, and is renowned as the leading higher education institution for the teaching, hotel management, and tourism, and has been the pioneer in teaching design in Portugal when in 2016 merged with the IADE. As I have a few minutes, I can say, in pandemic time, the purpose of this webinar is extremely relevant when society must join force in order to cooperate and aspire to conquer new horizons in mutual aid. Today, it is known that man intends, by the end of this decade, to install the first base on its moon satellite, as well as the first hypersonic ships are expected to be available after 2030. Everything leads to believe that design has naturally an essential and fundamental role for space exploration and to be able to provide interaction with technology, habitability and comfort conditions, and of course, beauty for the next space explorers. It is a great pride that the Universidade Europeia joined this day to evoke the importance of design for the exploration space with our friends of Italian designers and with the support of the Italian embassy in Portugal. Thanks so very much, and I hope at the end of this webinar, some of us are more motivated to give more attention for this so important area and resource that all humanity have at this moment, that is the space. Thank you so much. Thank you, Emilia, for the invitation and the organization of this, and the host, of course, this webinar by the UNIDCOM. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Carlos Duarte, for your kind words. And because we are getting a little bit late on our schedule, I would like to call immediately Professor Rodrigo Ramirez to give some words to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Emilia, and thank you, Professor Carlos, and thank you, Your Excellency, Signore Carlo Formosa. I'm going to try to take up on your challenge. It's not going to be easy in the short time that I have. I'm going to try to do my best. Also because I have my students here who might benefit from this potential conversation. What's the relationship between technology and beauty, and why design has to do with technology and beauty? And I don't think there's a simple answer to that. What I can answer, thinking about the relationship between technology and beauty, we could perhaps go to Italian futurism. Think about Marinetti's ideas, celebrating technology as the triumph of men, only men, not women, over nature, or capacity to harness the power of nature and to advance ourselves, to move forward and to celebrate everything that comes, good and bad, death, disease, change, loudness, all of these things that are normally associated with the industrial change. There are obviously bad things about futurism. There are really interesting things about it. But I think in this time, we should think about what design, what technology enables us to do. And I think the key to understanding why we are so fascinated by it is because although normally we tend to think of technology as something that is separated from being human, it's actually something that it's intrinsic to us. But we just recently started realizing this, and the word technology only emerged in the early 18th century. The word per se, the thinking about technology. Nonetheless, the origins of in industry or modern industry and our thinking about design, the philosophical stance or ideas of design, modernism in general, can be taken back to the Renaissance, the Italian Renaissance. And it's no coincidence that Italians are everywhere when it comes to design and technology. It is there that a lot of the ideas that we now associate intrinsically to design first emerge. I think the key to beauty is that technology allows us to do a lot of stuff that previously we were not able to do. Technology allowed us, and design by obvious reasons, allowed us to elevate ourselves from mere creatures. When we experience through technology, when we are able to see new things, we can marvel about the world and about ourselves too. So if we understand design as an art of invention, as Richard Buchanan would say, it's mainly something that has to do with invention, with creating new things. So by that token, it doesn't have a definite subject matter. Every sphere of action can be a sphere of action for design and for designers. So this, in a way, shows us or tells us why are we so marveled about the things that we do. We are in a very profound way finding ourselves through design and through technology, through the things that we build. And we are affecting our environment, and our environment in turn is affecting us. So in space exploration, for example, we would not be able to see, to understand what space, what the moon, what stars are without our own craft or capacity to craft the instruments to witness those things. We would not be able to, I don't know, dress up. I would not be able to see without certain technological development. So I think the link with beauty is that it allows us to understand and to know things. By building, by elevating ourselves from these apes, would we say, intelligent creatures, we are now able to transform not only our environment, but even, and nowadays, further ourselves. I know this is not a satisfactory answer. I don't think that the title is fortunate. Technology is not necessarily beauty. I think equating the two, it's kind of dangerous. And going back to Marinetti, I think celebrating just technology for the mere sake of technology, it's something that it's very dangerous. And nowadays, as Professor Carlos Duarte is saying, was saying a minute before, Nowadays, I think it is even more important to be aware that how technology shapes the things that we feel, that we understand, that we see, how we relate to each other and to the world, and pay attention to how it affects negatively the things that we do and how we understand everybody else. Nowadays, thanks to technology, we're able to conduct a seminar in live. We are able to weather down a situation that it's in many ways unprecedented. But also, I don't think it's good to forget that technology is part of human nature. It's not opposed to us. It's kind of our Jekyll and Mr. Hyde side. On the one side, we are creative enough. On the other side, we are dealing with these destructive capacities. But it's not something that it's alien to us. It's us. It is witnessing ourselves doing things and transforming ourselves and the world. And nature, or other side, always finds a way to humble us down. Okay, we can go to the moon, we can build many stuff, and yet a small invisible thing is putting the entire world on pause. So I think we can celebrate the beauty of our own intellect, but at the same time be humbled down by its fleeting nature. I think that it's the dynamics where this, I think it's not necessarily beauty. I think it's awe, and all that comes with awe. I know it is not a satisfactory answer, but I think I've made enough connections to get us started talking. I want to thank you everyone for inviting me. I want to thank again, our colleagues and Professor Carlos Duarte, Professor Emilia, and of course, Your Excellency, Professor Signore Carlo Formosa. Thank you. I hope I did not ramble too much, and I still have 1 minute.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Rodrigo, for your intervention and your words, inspiring words. I think the audience will have later on some questions for you. So thank you once again. Now I would like to invite our Italian Design Day ambassadors, our colleagues Annalisa Dominoni and Benedetto Quacquaro, please. Thank you so much. I don't know if we lose them. I think their connection, they are not with us. I can't see them in here. So something went wrong with their connection. I don't know. Let's wait just 1 minute and see if they can reconnect. This live events.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello, Professor. How are you?
I'm
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for reminding me that I should be here, because probably our colleague has switched off microphone.
No, I think the connection just went off. They are not online right now. So maybe we could just, if you agree with me, we could just invert the order, and so I could invite Giorgio Novello, the Vice President of Aviospa Institutional Relationships, to start his presentation, maybe while we wait for our colleagues to join us. What do you think could be?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
If you bear with me, I would try to share a few feelings with you more than ideas and concepts.
Okay, thank you so much.
I listen with rapt attention to what the other speaker told us, and also to what Ambassador Formosa, my good friend and dear colleague, said in his introduction. So really, I'm not prepared to deliver a sort of organized speech, rather to share some feelings and sentiments with you. The first thing I would say is that I'm very happy to be remotely connected with Portugal. Because I have to confess to you, I really love your country. As a schoolboy, we all studied Vasco da Gama, Bartolomeu Dias, Magalhães, all these heroes who sailed the world. And then as a young boy, and back in 1975, I followed the Carnation Revolution, what happened in Portugal. That was my first opportunity to get involved in a way with politics and with society at large. Then I returned to Portugal for the first time in 1979. I spent some wild nights in a youth hostel in Oeiras, and I have vivid and beautiful memories of my days in our country. And then in my time as Senior Vice President Institutional Affairs of Avio, the Italian company producing space rockets, I really saw the space activities of Portugal bloom. You have a new Speak-Span new space agency, you have an interesting space law, you are very active in promoting space cooperation in the Atlantic Ocean, and then you are working on creating an international spaceport in the Azores Islands. So in a nutshell, Portugal is a beautiful country and it is also a very efficient country, the language of which, inter alia, is officially spoken in countries and territories in all 5 continents. So really, in a nutshell, beauty and efficiency. That's the word for today. And I would try to highlight that beauty and efficiency is not only a Portuguese characteristics, it's also to be found in science, in technology, and in our production. So with the assistance of my deputy, Rossella Conte, I'll try to share with you a few images pertaining to the realm of maths. Tranquillo, tranquillo. Now, I don't know very much about maths and hard sciences. In my young days, I focused at school on classical languages, Latin and Greek, philosophy, history, but nevertheless, I had a bit of maths and physics and biology. But those who know, the real expert, tell me and tell us that the more elegant a scientific theory or a math formula are, the more chances they have to be also correct. So I would like to share with you just a few maths formula, which are at the same time elegant and happen to the best of our knowledge to be true. I would like to start with this very well-known Einstein equation that energy equals mass multiplied by the velocity of light squared. This is very, very graphic and very short and concise. Another one is the Pythagorean theorem. It is something we learn at school as schoolboys, and it really strikes everybody for its simplicity and its ability to show us what the relations between the 3 sides of a triangle are. This is also very nice. It's a formula showing us that 2 apparently different numbers in reality are exactly the same. 1 equals 0.99999 to the infinity. In a way, you have to the left-hand side the root of maths, the unity, and on the other hand, to the right hand of the equation, we have a sort of graphic representation of infinity. Let's go on to the equation, an equation of Euler, Leonhard Euler, quite fascinating. It says that if you take a sphere and you cut it in whatever form you want, in vertices, in squares, and in edges, the number of faces, edges, and vertices corresponds always to this formula, where 2 is the result of them. And that happens for any type of cutting of the sphere. Then we come to the special relativity of Einstein, which tells us that time is not given. It varies according to the movement of the observer. On the left-hand side, you have the position of one single person, which could be you and me, and to the right-hand side, you see how your movement affects the acceleration or deceleration of time. Again, it goes, of course, beyond my capability of comprehension, and probably also beyond the capability of comprehension of most persons. It's the formula of the general relativity by Einstein, which puts in connection on the left-hand side mass and energy, and on the right-hand side the geometry of the world. So to show us that mass and energy really affects the geometry of the world, especially through curvature, which is an effect of gravity. All these formulas seem to be difficult to understand, of course, but they are elegant, concise, and apparently able to convey a lot of elements in a very simple way. This is quite the opposite. This is the formula of the so-called standard model, which tries to connect all different types of movements of particles acted upon by the fundamental forces in the world, i.e. the weak nuclear forces, the strong nuclear forces, and electromagnetism. Gravity is not included in there. It is included in an even more complex model called the enhanced Lagrange model. But those who say tell us that this is not simple, this is not elegant, because this is not a formula which has been completed. It's a sort of work in progress, a stepping stone towards further research which needed to be done. So, in a way, elegance and simplicity in maths and in physics equal many times to a correct description of reality. And this happens also in rocket science. This one I'm showing to you is the fundamental formula in rocket science, the Tsiolkovsky formula, which in a nutshell tells us that if you increase the mass of a rocket, the additional thrust you get will increase less than proportionally. In other words, there is no point in building bigger and bigger rockets in order to have additional energy and to lift even heavier payloads, because the additional capability of a rocket you get will progressively decrease by the increase in its mass. So, what I've tried to underline is the connection between elegance and science. And now let me take a step further in connection with the latest formula I showed to you, the Tsiolkovsky formula, to show the product of Avio, the company of which, as I mentioned before, I'm Senior Vice President for Institutional Relations, which is a light launcher called Vega. Vega means European Vehicle of Advanced Generation, Veicolo Europeo di Generazione Avanzata, Avio, my company, is the prime contractor of this launcher. It is built mainly near Rome, in our factory, some 45 kilometers from the Italian capital, but it is at the same time a European project promoted by the European Space Agency, of which Portugal is an extremely active member. So in a way, for us in Avio, working on Vega is also a way to cooperate with our Portuguese friends. What I like in this rocket is its performance, but also its beauty. You see the color, you see the shape, the elongated shape, which transmits a feeling of lightness and of energy. This shape is not, of course, decided only because it's nice. It happens to be nice because it has to obey some fundamental laws. First of all, this elongated shape is necessary to overcome the resistance of the atmosphere up to 100 kilometers of height, up to the so-called Kremer line, which is the border between the atmosphere and the outer space. Second, it has to be designed in that elongated form because the gravity center of the rocket lies a little bit outside it, because it has to be tilted a little bit forward in order to be able to fly. And third, and then I go back to the formula, the fundamental formula of rockets I mentioned before, because this single rocket is in reality the juxtaposition of 4 different stages, or 4 different rockets, one on top of the other, which have to lit off together and which then separate from one another through very complex mechanism. So here, beauty and efficiency. And you see here this very elegant blue stripe, which was designed by Giugiaro, who is also a car designer of European renown, which also gave his contribution to the aesthetic of this launcher. You see here they take off of Vega. And also, just to recall that it was also exhibited in Milan. A mock-up of Vega was exhibited in Milan during the Fashion Week. And a model of it was also exhibited at the Technology and Science Museum in Milan. So again, design and science. Final point I would like to mention, to share very quickly with you, is that the company producing Vega, Avio, was established more than 100 years ago, literally in the middle of nowhere, in a plain some 45 kilometers from Rome, with no inhabitants at all. But a city was built around the factory, so that the factory and the city grew together. The city was a completely new one, of course, and was established as an autonomous local government only in 1935. But being a completely new city, it was designed and created by one leading Italian engineer and architect of the 19th century, of the 20th century, sorry, Riccardo Morandi, who is very well known for his artistically significant use of concrete. Colleferro, the name of this city, will be the European capital of space in the year 2022, and it will focus its role as European space capital on both technology, design, and art. Finally, cinema is also a form of art, and I would conclude my contribution by showing you a few minutes of a new film devoted to design, the rocket and the city of Colleferro. That's it. Many thanks for your kind attention.
Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. And I would like to call now our colleagues Annalisa Dominoni and Benedetto Quacquaro. They are already with us.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sorry for
No problem.
that. We lost
Welcome.
our line.
These things happen, we know. So don't worry, please.
Okay. We would like to thank the Italian Embassy in Portugal, ADI, l'Associazione per il Disegno Industriale, and the Universidade Europeia for this invitation. We are very proud to represent the Italian design ambassadors. Although, of course, we would have liked much more to be in Lisbon and meet you in person. The theme of Italian Design Day 2020, as you know, is Designing the Future, Development, Innovation, Sustainability, and Beauty. And you can transfer all these keywords to the space design discipline. And we will present you some example after a short introduction about who we are and our job. So we se magari mi aiuti.
Devi condividere, vai su Zoom.
Fallo tu, va.
Just sorry. Okay. Just wait. Per favore, metti il dito. Sorry. And we have to. Okay. We have to go out and rejoin the reunion to launch them.
Okay.
Sorry for this interruption, but it seems they are having some troubles with the connection, so they just rejoin us. I think we will be able to continue right in a few seconds. Okay. Dear Annalisa, we can see now your screen. You are sharing screen with us, and the image is visible. Yeah.
It's visible?
Is visible?
Yeah. Yes, yes. Okay.
Okay, great. So me and Benedetto are architects and designers. We have a PhD in industrial design, and we are professor at the School of Design of Politecnico di Milano, where we created and direct the first unique course of space design in the Europe, recognized by the European Space Agency, that we have called Space for Inspiration, and you can see the logo.
Sorry. Okay, let's get it.
Okay. We have more than 20 years of experience in researching and designing for space, among which habitation modules for spaceships, Moon and Mars bases, and tools that we have been experimented and used by astronauts on board the International Space Station. We have written many scientific publications, papers and books. Some of them have contributed to define a new discipline in space design and the role of design in space.
I'm sorry, and sorry to interrupt you, but in fact, we are seeing the presentation evolving. So we are still in the cover page.
Really?
Yeah, because what happens, I think you have the full screen view on another screen. And what we are seeing is the presenter's view. So for us, the slide is still the same one.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Now
yes, yes. Now the slides are changing for us.
But you can see the whole screen.
No, we are seeing your presenter's view, not the full screen. Okay. I think if you are working with two screens, you are sharing the private one or the one that should be for you.
Okay.
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 Start sharing the. Okay. Now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So sorry for the interruption.
So sorry for that.
Okay.
And, okay. So we are here now. We have participated to various international scientific conferences as guest speakers. And we organize conference with astronauts as well as exhibition, space design and fashion. And we are director of the higher education course in space fashion design at the consortium of the Politecnico that is called Poly Design.
So in addition to the academic and research activity, in 2011, we founded the professional studio A+B, which has the aim to make design in very different areas, contaminating research and technological innovation with poetry. We normally draw small objects, limited editions for arts and galleries, furnitures for house and office, but also vehicles and space habitation model. Among our last projects, we designed a space station concept for Thales Alenia Space, and the Leonardo trains of the Milan Underground for ATM, produced by Hitachi Rail. And also we designed a space acoustic project for Caimi Brevetti. Both this project and the Milano Underground trains were selected for IADE Design Index. Normally, we like to define the designer as a problem maker, not a problem solver, who is asking new questions and generates and increases people's well-being, and that goes both from space to earth. Design places the human being at the center and tries to interpret the needs in a most sustainable way. Normally, we think that if an astronaut lives and works in a comfortable environment and with an efficient equipment, its performance increase and can determine the degrees of success of the mission.
We give you some examples. On board the International Space Station, astronauts used to live in a confined environment, extremely chaotic and difficult to decode. They take more than 50 days to orient. They work with terrestrial instruments and objects that are adapted for space, like tools for physical activity, as you can see in this picture. You can see on the left a terrestrial treadmill, as well on the right a velo ergometer. They have personal hygiene facilities with an interface not proper comfortable. And in this picture, you can see the shower, the only one for the Skylab, that was used just one time during that mission for its complexity. We have to consider also all the physiological, psychological, and perceptive alteration that the human being undergoes in microgravity, that is not part of our normal terrestrial experience. So design becomes essential for us to create new environments and objects designed specifically for space that they are able to turn the limit, as microgravity is, into an opportunity. And maybe we should also think of environments for entertainment for the crew, like in this picture. This is our latest project for a concept of a new space station commissioned by Thales Alenia Space, in which you can see the interior of the housing module that has been completely rethought. The racks are replaced by cylinders that can slide to reconfigure the interior, making at the same time from soft surfaces of support and container. And light change intensity and color according to the circadian rhythms and emotional factors, and the global perception of the environment is of total relaxation and fun. You can see the external configuration that is inspired by a ring with windows set like precious stones, which travel in space to enhance the beauty made in Italy and give, in our opinion, to the space station a strong identity that is recognizable. We have foreseen also mobile textile partition and collapsible chaise longue that allow different uses of the space and guarantee a sort of privacy that is so important in a confined environment as a space station is.
Okay, going further, We keep in mind that today we are not thinking only to train astronauts, but researchers and tourists that could look at the space as an opportunity. And this is more closer to us than we thought some years ago. So why not also thinking about what we call the designing experience for those who want to have a spacewalk in safety and freedom? So we think that this is possible with a drone that follows us and is always close to us, and then could embrace us to bring us back to the station, inside the station. This, for example, is a project that was developed within the space design course, Space for Inspiration, that we created in 2017 and led together, me and Annalisa, at the School of Design at Politecnico di Milano. This year is the 5th edition, and we will start in March. Space for Inspiration is the first and unique course that ESA recognizes and support. And they give us experts and scientists who suggest and define the project teams in line with the objective of the Space Agency strategic programs. The collaboration between Space for Inspiration and ESA is not only a spot project, but it's an ongoing agreement about teaching research design close together to ensure the development of innovative projects in which the contribution of design discipline is fundamental and strategic. We try to generate disruptive ideas and visions for habitability, in general habitability in space, with particular attention to human factors and interaction between the man, the operator, the tools, and the environment. We believe that space innovation will have a strong influence on how people behave and perform. And the role of design is to humanize the technology to meet its needs and the real needs of a sustainable society. We also believe that space can really inspire students and help them to understand better how they can move consciously through the transformation that technology brings. Also, the space station, the International Space Station, can be seen as the most extreme example of sustainability. Because it's we consider it like a living organism capable to recycling 100% of its waste, and in which people share their lives. The project of the drone for the spacewalk is useful also to introduce another potential role of space design, and is concerning the development of spin-in and spin-off. This idea can be a suggestion for another extreme environment, but on the Earth, which could make safer the divers. Okay.
This is a garment of the capsule collection called Couture in Orbit. The European Space Agency has asked us to design clothes inspired by space technologies and to be worn on Earth. The drawing you see, the knee in the configuration of a space antenna is an ESA patent, which currently consists of three-dimensional cones, and that we imagine printed on fabric with conductive ink. You can imagine the potential application of this idea on clothing and accessories to amplify the cell phone signal in reception and transmission. But you can see also how design can add aesthetic value, beauty, to the technology, because paradoxically, the idea of the dress is disruptive and beautiful, even without the technology working. in the era of the space economy, the designer becomes a producer of ideas and suggestions. We like to say that the designer is a connector between futuristic scenarios and technological development. And the design attitude creates a dialogue between distant productive know-how to generate innovation, find new application for space technology that can be integrated into new terrestrial products to improve everyday life. For example, in this picture, the cooling technology that usually we find under the EVA suit for the thermoregulation system, and that here we put outside the garment to spread the vaporized essence instead of water. And vice versa, design approach is able to involve a private sector company who do not belong to the space field, but for their know-how, they could make a great contribution to the development of human space flight, like our product in the next slide.
So we like to conclude the design for space with these products that we just mentioned before. Is a space acoustic object that we designed for Caimi Brevetti. And we choose as an icon of our way of designing between the space of Earth. That's combine innovation, technological research, space inspiration, and beauty. This object combines distant technologies. There's no sound technology fabrics with that we had the pleating technique of a luxury fashion company. This gave rise to the quite surprising shape that is generated by the structural properties of pleating, which increase the acoustic performance. So we are in the new Supernova Lab of Caimi Brevetti, which is one of the most advanced research center on the acoustic in Europe, to investigate the percentual capacity of a human in a controlled environment isolated from electromagnetic noise and interference. Meanwhile, with Thales Alenia Space, we are testing now this kind of acoustic products to use them on the ISS, on the International Space Station. This is a concrete example of how design could speak different languages and could be a bridge between human science, between technology and beauty, to generate innovation and to increase the people well-being in space, but also on the Earth for a more sustainable society. If you want to deepen the space field, we give this, that is the last book of Annalisa, designed for supporting system for life in outer space, and is fresh coming out from Springer Books. It's a new edition. And then you can see on our websites that are the A+B, it's our firm, design firm, and Space for Inspiration is where we condensed project research and teaching. So we thank you for the attention, and we finish it.
Thank you so much for this fantastic presentation and this very...
We try to squeeze a lot of things.
Yeah,
so
I can imagine.
We have to go fast. I'm sorry. We are sorry.
Inspiring examples you are sharing with us. And so, because we have a time schedule to follow, I will keep, I guess that our audience might have a huge amount of questions for you, but let's keep them waiting, and we still have one speaker to go. And so now I would like Professor Carvalho Rodrigues to join us, and please, yeah, okay. Let's move forward. Professor Carvalho Rodrigues, we would like to hear from you now. I think your microphone is muted. Thank you. Okay. Professor, can you, okay, now, yes, thank you.
I was having a private conversation with someone, so I had to switch me off any conversation. Well, it's a miracle, and it's a miracle based on design, that I'm talking and seeing you from where I am. This is probably one of the most remote villages in Portugal. Actually, when I came to live here, when I retired, there was an explosion of population because the population jumped from 20 to 22. It's a 10% increase. But here you can contemplate a lot of things, And one of them is certainly how we have adapted to nature and what is new in the days I'm living now and in the days where I was a child here. The difference is, nowadays, I share my life with instruments that are manufactured, and some of them are partly manufactured, partly born. Actually, at this moment where the whole earth is an hospital, we have the hope, and it's very feasible, to have a vaccine in a very short time, because the vaccine has not been made by humans, it has been calculated. It was supercomputers that designed the molecules. Actually, we are today speaking of larger objects going into space. But I can guarantee you that design, molecular design, is also at the same scale, because we have nowadays instruments that can actually look into very minute objects and show them as big as galaxies. So you can actually manufacture, design to a purpose, and manufacture vaccines. Proteins is geometry. It's geometry with some elements, but it's geometry. That's how I would like you to remember today. Because that's why I called my talk to you Sublime. Space design is sublime. I launched, I built and launched a satellite in 93, so 27 years ago. In those days was still an adventure to do that. But it was an adventure to do that. Yet it was very important to show that you are able to give a destiny to things. The symbol that Carlos designed, I hope I am sharing it with you. Am I sharing it with you? I am. Now I am. Carlos designed this. This is a very early 90s thing, isn't it? It's all concentrated on what we wanted to do and what the companies wanted us to do. These were the people that actually produced. This is the mock-up that is still in a company near Lisbon. The one is flying over. But what I'd like to show you is for how long space has been with us. And the furthest we have been, in my knowledge, to space has been signed through by a poet. Actually, it was him who was actually the first to look into space and see things that we were about to see 500 years hence. These are verses from Camões. Camões wanted to show Vasco da Gama the trajectory, the path to Goa. And so instead of, because in those days there were no rockets or other means of transportation, he had a goddess, a muse, that picked up Vasco da Gama, took him outside of the planet and tell him this: uniform, perfect, sustained in itself. Here is the archetype of whom created it. And seeing Gamma, this globe, moved of awe and desire, he stayed. Said the goddess to him, the globe, reduced in small volume, I give you the world to your eyes for you to see where you are going, where you want to go, and what you desire. This was written in 1572. It's not bad for a forecast. Then space went on, and one of the characters I like more on the legendary invention of science literature produced by Jules Verne. It's this Monsieur Michel Ardan. In the discussion whether they should the bullet they have designed should have people on board or not, he convinced the opinion of the gun club was that should be no one, but he said no, because I'm not a theologian, not a chemistry, nor a biologist, nor a physician, I, in my perfect ignorance of the great laws that rule the universe, I just have one thing to tell you. I don't know if other worlds are inhabited, and because I don't know, I want and I demand to go and see whether they are there or not. And we have been on that stage for a number of years. Because we have been to the moon, and then we stopped. We stopped because we have to learn how our biology can adapt to space. Because we were designed not by a planet, by the cosmos itself. We are sons of light and of the cosmos. We are not sons of a planet. And I give you a text that was read here in Portugal in '94 by Buzz Aldrin. And this is the facsimile. And what he says is, as the moon circled around the Earth over 50 times, from 68 to 72, 2 dozen Americans had the great good fortune to briefly visit that desolate sphere. And yet, an eerie apathy now seems to afflict the very generations who witnessed and were inspired by those events. Wonder and the growing retreat delusions of risk-free societies. Many the feeling that we should make our pilgrimage not outward to the stars, but inward to the ever-demanding needs of humanity. And this is the very notion that has crossed all these years, because we considered ourselves to be the result of a planet. We are not the result of a planet. We are the result of cosmos. But I believe all people must have the humility to nurture the Earth and the pride to go to Mars. Neither goal is finite, and either alone is the proverbial sound of one hand clapping. And you know, the two hands clapping make the sound. One hand just says goodbye. In another quarter of century, that means now, by the golden anniversary of that first lunar landings, most of its participants will have passed into resounding commitment into history. Then he went on to say, let us all take that occasion, therefore, to proclaim a resounding commitment to be continued, to the continued human exploration of our solar system, a challenge that can bind together nations, inspire youth, advance science, and ultimately end our confinement to one vulnerable world. Beyond these ends, international space achievements stand with the cathedrals and the pyramids among the great projects of history, epic social feasts that embodies the spirit of an age. They are the dreams of the child in man, arising less from the ethic of work than from the spirit of play. And this is by definition what sublime is. All the rationals reduced to one simple truth. We will one day walk on Mars in the spirit of wonder that sets our species apart. And our species is so much apart that it can join together verse and science. This poet died in 2001. And he is the champion of the joining together the two cultures, literature and science. And this is one of his poems. It came to me when one of our colleagues in these panels wrote the famous equation E equals mc squared. And he says, the delirious of electromagnetic fields to whom Maxwell equated the perturbation. A train of fire that passes through another one in space in some time. And each one of them bursts. I am looking all the way, and I'm looking all sideways, And when I'm stopped, I'm dancing. When I'm dancing, I'm stopping. The flies of Galileo and the rays of Michelson don't shake inside as the mess that one and the other sings, because the train where Newton is still driving takes on board in Bern a clerk from a patent office that harmoniously, relatively distracted, wrote the equation E equals mc squared in the arch of his violin. In my old doubts, this has broken the parallax. The orbit advances occult as all the others, but at last, different systems I put together in the galaxy of my verses. So space is actually beautiful, sublime, and actually puts together the two cultures. Whenever you calculate, you calculate through mathematics. And may I remind you that we are nowadays experimenting with a new language to express reality. We have started with gesture, speech, then drawing that brought geometry and writing to describe us and our surroundings. 400 years ago, we started with mathematics and came to where we are now. But nowadays, we need to discover other means, another means of presentation of reality. This vaccine that we are having now, it's one of the first steps that your generation will certainly find that way. Not mine, but yours. Yours, because you will live in symbiosis between what is born and what is manufactured. You can see it in many instances, the beauty of it all. Because if you want, when you do that, you can calculate the most incredible stuff. I can tell you that in my fantastic life, because I had really a fantastic life, a gentleman, a jeweler, a very high-standing jeweler in Portugal, came to me to design a jewel for women, earrings and a pendant. And I remember of this geometry, the vesica piscis, where you have the golden number, the different aspects of the golden number. If you want also the yang and the yin of the east, but you have the 4 points of Lagrange, and you have also the points of Lagrange of the Earth-Sun system. But those are the points where if you put there a satellite, it will stay there, and some will do some things, others will do other things. And from those points, we were being able to know where we are, to have a picture from home. And that is sublime because nobody had seen it. And we can even calculate through geometry the fields, say the magnetic fields of the electrical distribution in a molecule. And funny enough, we have seen this also in nature, not only on moire patterns. It's not just the magnetic field of the Earth. It's what is called the I galaxy. It's also the same, the Southern Crab Nebula. So you have quite a number of possibilities of design, and they all are the same because the representation of the world is still by gesture, speech, drawing, or mathematics. But and then we came up with this ultimately, that design. And when we came to that design, we had to actually design the object itself, the jewel itself. And then we remembered that one of the founders of IADE, a gentleman called Lima de Freitas, had also done the same, viewed the same, and he was a pioneer for Penrose, that this year won the Nobel Prize, to explain why, although in geometry, in crystals, you can't have a five-fold geometry, if you have a triangle, a golden side triangle, a losange or a rhombo, one of these or one of those, then I'm going to show this in large foresight. Okay, five-fold doesn't exist. There are no crystals five-fold until the golden square, the golden triangle emerged through Penrose. You see, because when you have five-fold symmetry, there are some gaps. You can't have crystals. You can't have membranes, so you can't have organs like this because you have holes. And the five-fold symmetry was discovered by the Nobel Prize winner of this year, physics, where you have rhombs with a psi, which is the golden number, and the others, the unity. You have a convex triangle and you have a concave triangle. When you put those together, you come up with a five-fold symmetry. And that's why you have in the ocean the five arms star roaming about. This was done again with the geometry we know, the representations we know. And can we do this otherwise? Can we do it by other means? I don't think we can. I don't think we can because we have, again, I repeat myself, we have to come up with a new representation for this world. And I'm trying to see where I have put, hold on a second, where I've put, after all these conjectures, where I've actually put the I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Because I would like to show you what was the result of the pieces that IADE designed for that jeweler. They were inspired on things that are happening in space. And that at the same time, they have very old symmetries that
Professor, sorry for interrupting you. I apologize for being so rude.
No, you are not being rude.
We are running out of time.
I just don't know where I put.
Okay, I'm loving the presentation.
You know, later on,
yeah.
I'll find them.
You can send it to me, and I will share
the jewelry that came out of design inspired by space.
Okay, I think this is perfect.
My other message is, nowadays people designing for space, they should be concentrating on how our biology can be compatible with instruments that are manufactured and that can help us to go and overtake the long expanses of space. That's for your generation. A new representation of the world to be able to cover all the expanses of space. Because we have the biology to cover space. And the other thing is, I would like you to remember always that we are not just the sons of a planet. We are the sons of the cosmos. And when we go to space, we are just returning home. And with this, I end my story.
Yeah, that's a lovely way to close your speech. Thank you so much for these amazing moments and for sharing with us all these thoughts and examples.
You know, Emilia, I've got an advisor.
Okay.
and a friend, I'll show him to you. His name is Sir Leibniz.
Okay.
You see, Sir Leibniz, that's him. Are you all seeing Sir Leibniz? That's where I live nowadays.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now I would like to open the discussion. So there's some 10 minutes left for Q&A. So some of you, if you have questions for our distinguished speakers, please, you can either write the questions here in the chat, and so I will deliver the questions to them, or if you prefer, you can just ask permission to speak directly in here. So we have 10 minutes approximately. I have here Anna Spada. She left already. She had an appointment, but she left comments and a question. And I think she wrote in here, I think a good example of space and circular design is given by the Italian startup accelerated in Portugal, the Orbit. They focus on the end of life, the commissioning, aiming to bring waste from the space back to Earth. If you have other examples to share regarding this topic, or no, she didn't mention to whom the question was directed. So I don't know if any of you have any thoughts, any idea about this question, how to deal with this waste that surrounds Earth now,
Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
We consider this problem a really focusing topic. And in Italy, we have just near us a company, a small, not so small company that is called the Orbit, and they are specialized in debris. So they focus their activity, they produce and launch satellites, and they are really a state of art of this kind of topics. But certainly is really, we have to consider it as one of the most important problems to solve.
Okay, thank you. So Maximilian,
I would also like to add a few comments.
Okay, please.
So Giorgio Novello, again, the Senior Vice President of Avio. Actually, the subject of control of space debris is very topical, especially because now there is a shift from huge satellites in high orbits, some 36,000 kilometers away from the surface of our planet, to a low orbit from 500 to 2,000 kilometers. Satellites are becoming increasingly smaller. That means that there are many of them around. It's estimated that some 8,000 satellites were launched so far in the history of mankind, of which some 5,000 are still orbiting the Earth. Most of them, again, in a low orbit. The United Nations, through their Office for Outer Space, have launched a number of initiatives to establish a legal mainframe, including guidelines on the control and management of space debris. My company is trying to do its part. D-Orbit was mentioned, and actually in September, on the 3rd of September, we put in orbit a number of small D-Orbit satellites, which included also portions of a new mechanism, again created by a small Italian startup based in Turin, the name of which is Aviosonic, which will be able to trace space debris falling to Earth, so that to reduce the area of possible impact in making it much easier to control them. That's it. So it's evidence of how a company like mine, which is of course driven by profit, is also driven by the desire to live up to the highest standards of the international community. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you so much. So Luis Fonseca is just remembering or just calling that a few hours ago we had a launch of more 60 Starlink small satellites from SpaceX mission, and this will aggravate the space trash issue. But we know ESA is doing some work to solve this problem. So thank you. And there's here another question from Maximilian. He's asking, what do you think about the idea of commercial space flights and private companies like SpaceX? Any ideas about it?
Oh, it will be the survival of space efforts. Because if you don't, humans, we are like this. If we don't have a race, we don't run.
That's a good idea.
And you know, it's not a question of it's if you as long as your competitor is never, not even in the antechamber of your bad thoughts, an enemy, then a race is always important. The other thing is the state is obliged by its own nature to fund what nations or groups of nations, I mean, Europe, evermore international effort to make everything, the first steps, to produce the first steps that no one would take, because no one would have the resources to do it. From that poem of Vasco da Gama, you know, Vasco da Gama outside of the planet, from 1572, assume it was a state-sponsored voyage, as Columbus was a state-sponsored voyage. If at some stage he didn't went private, we didn't have transports and navigation. We have to end in today's world, design is just not what is produced by humans. Machines do design. Machines have a flow, for a lack of better word, whatever, a flow of conscience. It's very different from ours, but they have. And it's fantastic that you are doing this at this stage, going outside, because we have to go to cosmos again, to where we come from, cosmos. Today, we must have all a profound reflection on what can we do to make everything, to fight against the second principle of thermodynamics, which is the growing of entropy, now that we have as partners but the real partners, things that have been manufactured and were not born. But they are our partner, you know, they are our partners.
Okay.
I always give as an example my teeth now, because, you know, I've got some implants, and these are my teeth because I paid for them and I have a guarantee for so many years. But look at what we can do. Actually, space can only work, and the biology, our biology, can only work if we, I mean you, designers with non-manufactured, in symbiosis with of manufactured items, can produce an environment where we can be in space years and years, terrestrial years, because relative, very long times in relativity are very simple to achieve.
Okay, Professor. So any other thoughts about this question? I have still here 2 more questions to go. Anyone wants to add something to this private?
Yes, very quickly. Again, the Vice President of Avio. I would like to confirm every single word said by the professor on the necessity of a partnership between private and public actors, especially in the space sector. States without private companies cannot fly in the space, and private companies simply do not have the necessary economic, technological, scientific means to fly. The example of my company is very clear and confirms that. We are a private company listed on the Milan Stock Exchange, and at the same time we cooperate closely with public institutions, including the European Space Agency. And so do virtually everybody in the world, including SpaceX and the American private companies, which work closely hand in hand with American institutions.
Okay, thank you so much. So maybe we could just address another question. So Antonio Catella is asking, what is a designer's best challenge for him or her to become successful? I don't know, Antonio, if you were referring to this space design area or design in general, but maybe we could just put it inside the topic, and so maybe I could reframe it. What is the space designer best challenge to become successful? Maybe, I don't know if Annalisa or
Okay, first we think that the first challenge is to be lucky. And to be lucky it means to be curious, to be multitasking, to be really transversal. Because we think that, as we told in our talk, we cannot think to a designer like to a problem solver, but a problem exciter. So it means what we normally call the reversal thought, like Castiglioni, to take a chair, to upset the chair with the four legs on the air and say what it suggests to me. So try to cross competence, and also a fantastic challenge is to be responsible, because every action we do projecting something could means a reaction on the environment or on the other our similars. So
and also for the project, because through our objects and environments we can change the behavior of the people, and the consciousness is we think in the number one. Of course, we joke we have to be lucky, but it's also true, because there are so many very good professionals, and you can see lives that depends maybe for some particular meeting or some network that you are able to build and meet the right people. This is also chance, is luck, and is quite important, has to have responsibility of the power to be designers and to be able to give shape to our world overall in the future for the next generations.
Okay, I have a question for you, and I'm curious about if you think that we should start preparing designers not to be designers on Earth, but to be designers on Mars or any other planet we might go in the future. So in fact, my curiosity, if you think that the way designers work would change if they weren't designing in Earth, but if they were designing elsewhere?
Yeah, surely.
We are experimenting this with our course, Space for Inspiration.
Okay.
And we can see the enthusiasm of our students, because, you know, when you have to design a chair or a table, there are so many masters before us, and it's quite difficult. If you look at space, it's a quite pure environment. Everything have to be redesigned. And the best challenge is to look at things to another point of view. And space helps a lot because everything is different. There is microgravity that changes completely all the behavior of people, but also the gestures and the relation with objects and environment.
And also there is another thing that projecting for space, it means that you can only foresee. But when you, if you are very lucky and you have done all the right things, you can test your projects. It's really a stadium that you cannot be back. So you can try on the Earth to design a chair and see how it stands. But if you think to something that has to fly, you have really to foresee different behavior and different way of approaching to this because microgravity change everything. The absence of microgravity change totally the way of thinking. And this is, we think that it's a good exercise also for projecting on the Earth. So this is, we insist on our course on make the spin-in and spin-off of technology to get the technology on the Earth and try to use on the space and vice versa. So this is...
yes, so it's the capacity to forecast that we to students in order to define new scenario and have the capacity to manage the complexity of this field.
Okay, it seems fantastic area, very interesting topic to work on. Okay, I think related with this question, we have here Davide Gambera is asking, okay, when designers look at practical problems and for they look mainly for the efficiency issues, but instead when we look at the cosmos, we look at the dignified, mainly investigating the Aristotelian final cause. And so his question is, how can, as designers, take advantage from both perspectives? It's a tricky question.
It's a big question.
Yeah, I don't know if you can give a short answer to it.
Yeah, it's a really difficult question because I think there is no method. We can apply some method to some specific part of your design process, but we don't think to have a unique method that could embrace everything. Some projects maybe are to be pushed on the Aristotelian final causes, so outer mirror, an outer view. Some projects needs to be pushed on the efficient side of and projecting is for us to be in an equilibrium. It's like to going on a rope in which you have the sensibility from sides and the calculating and the ratio on the other sides. This is the answer we can do.
Can I jump in like really quick?
That's Rodrigo.
I agree totally. There's no single method, but I think one way to start is being curious, and that's something that Professor Fernando was mentioning. I think that's the constant of his intervention, being curious. And he briefly also mentioned the two cultures. and the place that design has between the literary culture. He's talking about C.P. Snow, and those who are my student already know about that. And it's about merging. Design is a discipline of mediating. It's a mediating space. We always have to find balances amongst seemingly contradictory things or straightforward contradictory things. But best way for a designer, I believe, to be a good designer is to be open, to be capable of being bored. Boredom is it's the mother of invention also. Being knowledgeable, that's why I insist for you to be curious. Try to learn about everything. If you don't understand something, try to understand it. And in that process, that is, I think, the essence of design research is knowledge through making. And that is why it's so difficult to grasp. And it's a discipline of invention. By definition, we are concerned with making new things. And we might err, we might be successful, but we cannot always be repetitive. Right? It's always about coming up with new stuff, and it's allowing ourselves to be influenced by as many things as possible and get all those things together and putting into something new.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to be very brief.
Thank you, Professor.
Rodrigo Hernandez has said this of knowing as gathering from the outside as much as you want, as you can. Because everyone should be taught this. If you have a random collection of objects, assume that your neurons were not connected, but they were random. Can you imagine how many connections you could make between the neurons and come up with someone more intelligent? So what you have to do is to be able to do the maximum a human being can do. And that is the art of conjecturing. We can never be certain. Aristotle had the battle with Zenon, you know, the Achilles, you send the arrow, and the arrow is always between halfway between the position where it is and the Achilles, and it never dies. And actually, since we know quantum mechanics, it's not like that. It's the arrow, the arrow in Achilles, it's another thing, and Achilles is another thing, and all the three are observables. You can actually see them. So, being in a way very disciplined when you have to do the thing, and very wildly dispersed when you are thinking about it. I know that they are very contradictory, but the more random you are with your knowledge, the more circuits you can actually build to solve the problem you have at hand.
Okay, thank you for your contribution. We have still time. I think we are already 15 minutes past our end time, but I have still here 2 questions, and if you think you can give a very short answer to it, I would like to discuss this. So one question comes from Darlene, and she asks if we can find alternatives to synthetic materials, so we could avoid negative environmental footprints. Okay, and this to be inside the circular design approach. Okay, so I don't know if any of you have an idea about these new materials.
Yeah, we are we are not so sure that synthetic material are less respectful of the environment than natural. If you consider the tons of water that are necessary to grow up cottons and to refine material of a synthetic, a particular synthetic fabric that is totally recycled and could be totally recycled, probably has less footprint. So I think that this topic that, for example, we have to use the Aristotelian causes to be really distant and to see the general problem, and not to find not to fall down into ideological situation, because sometimes the reality is different of what will happen at the first view. So the role of designers is really to investigate this, to check and to see if this is. I think that from our point of view, we can find an application for synthetic material, but also for natural materials. It depends on how and for.
Well, I'm using of your time, but I just wanted to tell you one thing. The only way of doing completely recycling, even then, you would have a bit that couldn't be recycled. It's everything to be alive.
Absolutely.
Huh? You agree with me? If everything was alive, because you know there are atoms in me that probably have been on living beings for geological times, because you know when I die, other animals will put those atoms inside them, and it goes on and on and on and on and on as long as you are alive. And that's why what our colleague Annalisa and Dominoni have said, it's so important. You have to understand, you have to look at the very broadly outside the problem and see whether we are not making more mistakes than good when you focus on solving one problem for one molecular component or one atom. This is more complicated than this. It's beyond complex.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we should end the session. Still, questions are entering, but I think we don't have time now. I don't want to take much of your time. You might have other appointments and maybe you can't be with us for much time. So there were here two questions. One about the design of SpaceX Dragon capsule, if you think it's good or not. And Luis Fonseca is asking if you think you should design things for Planet B on our try to first find solutions on the problems on our Planet A, Earth. So this is, I think, a good way to end the discussion. Should we design for Planet B or we should focus more on Planet A, Earth? What do you think about this?
Well, I'm going to repeat what Buzz Aldrin said. We have to nurture Earth and their space, because if we don't do the two together, we won't be able to clap our hands.
Yeah.
Just we'll say goodbye, because it will be just one side of the question. You have to do both.
Okay. So, yes, please.
Just one sentence. Once more, I fully agree with the professor. There is no clear-cut distinction between space and Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Two things are now connected. Take, for instance, when you use a navigator driving a car, or when you're using your mobile phone, they use satellites. So there is nowadays a very close connection within the two concepts and the two realms. And that's again a confirmation of how beautiful the power of human brain is.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know, Annalisa and Dominion, if you want to add something.
If I may put a further point to the point that was made, that we do things all in one big cosmos. Look at this conference we are having. How many satellites are we using to produce this conference?
Exactly. Okay.
So we are sons of the cosmos. We are not just the product of one planet.
Thank you. So I don't know, Annalisa and Dominion.
Yes, I swear to Planet A and Planet B. If we think to the role of research and the exploration of the cosmos, is supposed to explore, to understand more about us. And when for the first time we went outside our Earth, we could see the Earth from another point of view and understand maybe how much we are fragile in this situation, and be more conscious of the sustainability problems and the safety that we have to build around our planet. And it's supposed that the research of new planets could help us to improve, to know new technology, new materials, new way for solve many problems related to this chaotic situation that we are living, the problem about health. And so we design for space because we believe space could really inspire us in different way and help generation and our world to go in better and better, we hope.
Okay, thank you so much. And to Rodrigo, do you want to say some words to close before we close the?
No, I thank you. I just want to thank my students for coming here and for actually asking questions and being participative. And I want to thank you all. I want to thank Professor Fernando. It was really marvelous talk, and it's too many things brought together, and it's really a excellent food for thought. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, all of you can come to where I am, because I've got a huge house, and I still have PhD students, and the last one was here for 4 months. So you can come anytime and spend time here, because it's even nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yes,
going to share with you.
This, in fact, a wonderful place.
Share with you.
And I wish we could be with you these days, and especially to try to escape from these pandemics that is complicating our life. But well, you know, unfortunately, we can't move.
You would like to be here, wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure. You know that.
Well,
okay. So I don't know if some of you.
You can come. Huh?
Yeah, I know that. Thank you so much, Professor. I will go.
Thank you.
One of these days. Thank you so much. I don't know if you want to say some words before we end this webinar. We are already half an hour past our time. And so I would like just to thank you once again for being with us and for sharing your thoughts and your knowledge and your experience with this audience, and also to thank the audience for being with us today. We reach number about 60 participants or attendees during the webinar, which is wonderful. And I think that the interest the topic raised might deserve a second session. Maybe in the future we could invite you again to join us in another event, because I think everybody was so inspired and motivated by the discussion that we should repeat it. So this is the challenge that I live. And I hope we can see each other again soon. And if you can travel to Lisbon soon, then just to let you know that you are very welcome to visit us at IADE and to enjoy Lisbon and our food and weather and all that. We will be pleased to welcome you one of these days when the virus allows us to return to these activities, these presential activities. So thank you once again. Thank you, the Embassy of Italy, for promoting this event, for inviting us to be all together. And thank you, our guests, for sharing your time with us. And I hope I can see you soon. And that's it. That's all for today. And I hope you stay well and healthy, and see you one of these days in the future. Thank you so much. And I will share with everybody the results of the session, so you can have it with you and the video. Okay? Bye-bye. Thank you so much. I hope to see you.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grazie mille.
Bye-bye.